Hello, world. This is Chris Aballo's podcast experiment, and I am Chris Aballo. Welcome to the show. Thank you for subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well, where every Monday you'll have the full video of the episode waiting for you. And of course, thank you also for following the show on the socials at Cape Pod. That is Instagram and TikTok and, again, YouTube. Just look up Cape Pod and we're bound to come up. Probably. Let's say probably. Anyway, joining me and making his 2023 debut, please welcome back my part-time lackey, Ryan Taggart.
Part-time lackey.
I mean, that's probably the most accurate way to put it. I mean,
I love
at this point.
Yeah, that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah.
I'm here. We're excited.
That's right.
Kicking off a new year of Chris Aballo's podcast experiment. Here we go.
That's right. And also, of course, joining us, although sadly not on camera, but he'll be behind the mic. Welcome back, Christian Cortez.
What's up? What's up? How are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good.
Good. So relieved he doesn't have to be on camera finally. It's like he always has to adjust the lighting so he shows clearly, you know, because
Listen,
skin tone
takes
contrast.
a lot of work to make this look good on camera.
Aw, don't say that. You're
I
adorable.
wasn't saying that negatively. I said it positively. It takes a lot of work.
It's like it takes a lot of work.
Be
Yeah.
authentically good looking on camera.
Oh, okay. Well, good. That's more like it.
Really, really ridiculously good
I'm
looking.
in an age of self-love right now. I'm trying to lose some weight. So
That's right.
That's why I'm like, nah, I look good on camera. I just don't feel like it.
You do. You're adorable.
No, look at you.
It just
You're
doesn't
so
feel
nice.
like it. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Also, there's not a camera available.
Yeah. That's the
Don't
real
worry.
reason.
There's that.
Yeah.
Don't worry, your film roles are guaranteed.
So, yeah, we got a bunch of stuff we're going to go over as usual, but we're going to kind of try to stay on task because we spent about an hour getting ready to get started because Cape is back and that's how we go.
That's how we roll.
How we do it. Yeah. I mean, that's just how it goes. Wow, I can't speak. See?
Yeah.
I'm not back in the habit yet, even though we're 3 episodes deep.
Shaking off the cobwebs.
Just a little bit. I can't take such long breaks. Shouldn't have. Actually, the show was supposed to come back at the beginning of April, but, you know, life. Stuff happens.
It happens.
So it started 3 weeks later than I originally planned, but whatever. It's back, and that's the important part.
Right.
So one of the things I've been, my, let's say, mindset that I've been hammering on you longer than most since we've been doing this together for approaching 13 years.
Jesus.
Which is, I know, is that wild?
Yep.
It's strange to think about it and partly depressing. But anyway,
Yeah.
my perspective has always been, you never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. Just bring your A game every time. Show up. Be as good as you can. Be as funny. Be as articulate. Brevity, not necessary because of obvious
Not
reasons.
necessary.
But honestly, you never know who's checking out your stuff. And that has shown up in a lot of ways. But specifically with you, you told me a very funny story of something that happened earlier in the year, which did make – was it early this year? Was it in the fall? I forget exactly when, but you told me about it fairly recently, and I'm like, we need to talk about this.
It was in December, maybe January of this year. So
Okay.
Around, the turn of the year.
So recently. But anyway.
Yes, recently.
Go ahead and you lay out the story because I was fascinated. And again, I was like, see, this is what I'm telling you. So go ahead.
Yeah. So once upon a time, I decided to get a second college degree at Brookdale Community College in my infinite wisdom.
Of course.
I didn't have enough debt.
Yeah.
I wanted to go for a second
Or enough
degree.
toilet paper.
A second degree, which I also have not done anything with. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fool me once.
Yay me. So I went to this community college, and there was a film course available, and I said, "Fuck yes!" I got to watch movies.
I can get college credit for watching movies.
I got to watch movies.
Sign me
and
the fuck
I got
up.
to write about them. I enjoy writing, always have. So I signed up for that. Took this class. We watched a bunch of movies. We were given assignments to do film analyses on these movies, and at the time, I was writing a blog called the No Seatbelt Blog. So it's
Yes.
another corpse in my graveyard of abandoned creative projects. So it's defunct, no longer happening.
Do you still own the .com? Is it still exist?
Do, and
Okay.
So I'll get to that.
Okay.
I'll get to that. So
It's a lot of them.
I graduated from this community college in 2017. I probably took this class in 2015. 2015, I want to say. And out of the blue on my personal Instagram page, I get a message from that professor who taught the film study class.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, listen, these papers that you wrote and you put on your blog, like I did some investigative work and I tracked you down. So I had posted these papers that I did. I was really proud of them. I worked hard on them. this is one of those classes where you do several drafts of the paper and you tweak them and
Sure.
you make them great. And I did. And I was
And
really
that
proud.
website was also kind of like free-form blog. Like
Right,
you
it
were
was
writing
a- it was
about
a
whatever.
free-form blog. I was just kind of writing about
Hence the name No Seatbelt Blog.
movies
was just
and
like,
music and
Ryan
life
Unhinged.
and- Ryan Unhinged.
so why not put these to use? Because it's just like, I wrote a sweet-ass paper about this movie.
Right.
Let me
And
now share it
so
with everybody.
I just, not thinking anything of it after the semester was over, I posted these to my blog. And out of the blue, in it was December of 22 or maybe January this year, I get a message from that professor in my inbox in my Instagram. And he's like, hey, listen, do you think that you can take those papers off of your blog? Because he's like, people have been plagiarizing those. My students have been plagiarizing your papers ever since.
For years.
For years. This is going on probably about 7 or 8 years now. And
What an ego boost, though.
yeah, no, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. But at the same time, I was like, well, you're welcome, fuckers, for taking my work and just literally handing in my exact paper.
Yeah, right.
Is essentially what he was telling me they were doing. They weren't picking out little pieces. They were just
Or not even like
they were
rewriting.
looking up like film
rewording.
review for whatever movie and first page on Google.
You're like, this is
somehow-
awesome.
Somehow
I'm
my
going to turn
blogs
this
are
in.
still showing up. And he's like, this is great. I'm just going to turn this in. So people have just been turning in my papers that I did. And he's like, I've just been kind of dealing with it.
Mhm.
You know, I don't want to ruin anybody's life over this. I mean, plagiarism is serious, but
Right.
he's like, I'll give them a 0. Like, if you want to resubmit, you can go ahead and resubmit.
Mhm.
And he's like, but listen, it would really help me out if you would just take these down so they stop showing up on Google. And I was blown away by this. I'm like, I abandoned this blog years ago, maybe
Yeah.
in 2018 or
Probably
so.
by
I
the end of
probably stopped.
2015.
Yeah. So I was like, people are still finding this? How?
Right.
Like, I forgot about this altogether. Like, I didn't even remember,
Yeah. Yeah.
doing this at all. And so I did it. Like, I had to really rack my brains to even figure out my password for that WordPress,
Right.
WordPress blog. And it was just the craziest thing that out of the blue, I get this message and he's like,
Yeah.
hey,
Hey, hope you're well. Listen.
hope you're well. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was kind of how it started.
Yeah.
He's like, I tracked it down and yeah, this is what's been
Yeah.
going on in
I
my
keep
class
running up
for
against this.
all these years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because I ended up asking him, I was like, you said you've been just kind of dealing with it, so how have you been dealing with it?
Mhm.
And he kind of told me, it was like, you know, I just was like, I know where they're getting these, and I pull them aside and give them one chance to resubmit and actually write their own paper.
Right.
And I was like, wow, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't think anything of this. I didn't think anything like this would happen.
Was there a part of you that wanted to just say thanks, but no thanks?
I mean, if I was still doing that blog and I was like really making something of it, and
Yeah.
at that point, like I would be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm getting a lot of views off
yeah,
of
I was
this.
like,
I don't
yeah,
know if I
right.
want to ruin my.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to ruin my momentum here. And these were great, and people are still like commenting on them, but that wasn't
Yeah.
really.
I'm getting a lot of
the case.
clicks through my Amazon
So
banner.
I was like, I don't want to give this guy a hard time. Like, I really enjoyed your class. Like, I liked you as a professor. Like,
Right.
Sure, I'll do you the favor and just take these down, off this blog that I'm not doing anymore anyway.
Right.
But it just blew me away that
That's
people
crazy.
are digging this up and
Yeah.
just turning them into their class.
That it even shows up on page 1 of Google results.
Right.
Like they didn't even have to
It's-
dig to
They
find
didn't
it.
even have to dig. It's right there. Like,
That's
still.
just stupid. That's
Right.
also like stupid on their part.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
how are you gonna plagiarize something off of the first page of Google?
Yeah.
You got to go at least
Yeah.
10 or 12 deep. Like,
Yeah, and it probably wouldn't have been found out as soon if they were just maybe taking like little sentences here and there and being like, oh, that's a good idea. Let me like just kind
let me
of
reword
or
this.
reword
like
this a
this is
little bit.
Cliff Notes. Let
But,
me find a
but
way there.
Apparently, they were just copying the paper and just handing it.
wow.
Yeah.
like the way it
yeah,
was.
literally verbatim, like
Yeah.
copy and pasting the paper.
And he was like, I figured it out pretty quickly, and I've just been kind of dealing with it. I was like, well, why have you been dealing with it for this long? Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. But you never know. Like you said, you never know who's watching.
You never know how shit's going to be found. Years
Yeah.
later, no
Years
less.
later. Yeah.
That to me is the crazy thing, is that you don't know kind of what I mean, I still, anytime I get a like we still have an active Instagram account. Well, it exists. That's how I define
exists.
active for
it's active in
for
that way.
for the old show. And there'll still be likes that pop up on occasion for different posts. I'm like, well, that's got to be a bot, and it's not.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I think the last post was a post for Father's Day in 2020. And that was only because we'd done 2 Zoom episodes of Cape, the 4 of us. So that's the only reason I thought to even post on that account, because I think I must have tagged it at some point, probably when promoting the episodes we did of this show. And those still get likes, but nothing's been posted in nearly 3 years, and there will still be likes on occasion on those, which is like...
So it's still popping up somewhere.
It's still getting in someone's feed, which I find bizarre because I'm like, this is from 2020. Like the idea that that's still there is weird. Because again, my assumption is just like, well, that's a bot account, and I'll click just because I'm curious. I'm like, oh no, this is an actual person. You can tell, obviously, fake account from another.
You've been on social media long enough, you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's not 89 posts in the last 3 days.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, there's a whole life.
You have this account that you're not posting on anything on anymore, and it's just kind of laying there dormant, and people are still finding it.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, the stuff I'm actively putting out that's getting a lot of likes and a lot of shares is still getting like 300 views. I'm like, how's that possible?
Right.
How does that happen? This thing has 54 likes. Like there was a reel I put out recently, one of the clips from Best of 2022, and it had like 56 likes in 2 days. And it hadn't even cracked 300 views. I'm like, why is this not getting recommended? People are like a high percentage, but what's that? 1 out of every 5 people who views it, likes it. Why isn't that getting recommended? Like that's a pretty strong ratio when it comes to like engagement. I don't know what you're looking for, TikTok.
Well,
so
people are finding
it's
bullshit
strange.
that was done years ago on a platform that we're not using anymore, or
on a website that hasn't been used.
Anymore.
Yeah. It's very, very strange. But I think it's funny that people are actually using this in an academic way. Like also not knowing it was necessarily submitted for this class. That is kind of the bizarre thing.
Exactly.
That it was for the exact same class, and that's what you wrote these papers for.
Right.
Like, what are the odds?
What are the odds of that?
Because did you have a bio or anything on that website? Which is like New Jersey, recently graduated from Brookdale for yet another degree.
I put something on there for the English class that I did. I had a professor who was just fantastic. He really helped me out with writing and
inspired you.
Really
in
enjoyed
part.
my work and inspired me.
Right.
So I kind of plugged her on the website. And
but no mention of this film class.
No mention of that. But it was so crazy to me that after all this time. And I saw his name, and I was like, I remember exactly who you are. Yeah, like I remember that class, and I loved it, and I'm so sorry. Like I didn't think this was something like this would happen.
That's the other thing too. You don't want to be a dick just for the sake of like, hey, this is my website. And again, it'd be different if you were actively using it, but this is something you haven't touched in 4 to 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
So like, why leave it up there?
I don't want to torture this guy.
Yeah.
And have him keep dealing with this while his punk students plagiarize.
And they're movies you enjoyed for the most part.
Yeah.
So like all the more reason like, no, watch it and write about it.
Right.
It's good for you.
Yeah, it's good for you.
Look what it did for me. I did a blog briefly.
Yeah. Fuck you.
It was one of the blogs I did for a little while.
Yeah.
And there are a few of them. There's a graveyard, which I don't, it's not like it's a running joke or anything like that, but it's something that has been noticeable. Like, and you brought it up. So you opened the door on this.
I did.
So how many ideas? Now we just to touch on it, we have a lot of new listeners and I assume viewers as well now that episodes are going out in full. But so the show we used to do together, myself and Ryan, along with our friends Andrew and Jack, was The Only Podcast That Matters. We did it ostensibly a weekly show from 2010 to 2014. We thought we were done, ended up just kind of putting it to bed for a little while, came back, did a limited series called The Only Podcast That Matters, The Guide to Life. And then we did the show weekly again in the early part of 2017, all in 216 episodes, and then the 10-episode Guide to Life series. They're available wherever you get your podcasts. Wherever you're listening to this, if you're listening to it on a podcast app, you can find The Only Podcast That Matters and The Guide to Life, because both are going to pop up when you search that excellent title. Such a good title. Shame is wasted on that show. But anyway,
right?
I mean, hindsight being 2020.
Yeah.
But anyway, but post 2014, after we put the show to bed and when I started doing Cape full on a weekly basis at the start of 2015, yeah, it was you did want to do something, even though you didn't know what. But you were also kind of over the team aspect of having to do something. Number one, on any kind of consistent schedule,
right.
But also the I don't know if democracy is the right word, but working in like a team, a cooperative. You're like, I'd rather just do something on my own and then, kind of be free to do it. What was the first one? What was the first project? If I remember, let me see if I remember.
Probably, do you remember?
Was it Sailing the Sudsy Seas?
No, that was Andrew.
Was it? Well, you had a beer thing too.
Yeah, but I just put that on my blog. Like on.
Was it the No Seatbelt blog?
Yeah,
was that the first one?
Oh
yeah, you said 2015. I guess that would make sense.
That wasn't the first one though.
Okay.
I did a blog called Nerd in the Box. So that was strictly like a toy blog. Yeah.
Wow. See, I forgot about that one.
That didn't last long. That was actually the first one. And, you know, I was taking very amateur pictures of, you know, this was before smartphones were what they were.
This is before,
high
they were.
pixel cameras. I was taking shitty pictures. Of
Totally.
toys and kind of posting like reviews on them. And
Right.
Because I was into, you know.
We also had like Motorola Androids at the time. Like the phones were not great.
The pictures were not great. And
when Samsung stepped up their game with the Androids, like that,
they did.
leaps and bounds.
Like, then the cameras were great. But
Totally.
This was before that time. And I was like, these look terrible. And after a while, I was like, nobody's looking at this. And I'm like, I'm spending time and energy on it, and I don't want to do it if nobody's seeing it.
And
like,
I get that.
In WordPress, like you can get stats. You know, people will comment on, you know, your posts or like them, and you know, you can connect with people that way. But
you can have a visitor count. We had it on. We may still be on.
Account.
Maybe on theonlypodcast.com still.
Yeah. So even at the time, like you had those kind of statistics, and I was like, nobody's looking at this, and I'm like, why am I doing this? So I abandoned it, and then started another blog after I started at Brookdale.
Right.
When I got like really heavily back into writing again, and then eventually, you know, marriage and kids and loss of inspiration, and then that went by the wayside too.
It was only the two?
Yeah, as far as my
really?
blogs go, yeah, it was only the two.
Oh, I thought it was actually more.
Yeah, I exaggerated when I said graveyard of.
Well,
I mean, Jack and I started a toy podcast, and we did like 2 episodes, and then we abandoned it.
Well, there was a whole. I mean, this is something we've been talking about doing the complete history. It's something. Now, I talked about it last year. So for those who've been with the show for a little while, obviously it didn't come to pass. I kept saying in 2022 we were going to do the complete history of Cape and the only podcast that matters because there is so much overlap and one kind of begat the other.
The good, bad, and the ugly.
Well, that was the plan. It's like it's going to be the 4 of us. We're going to come in here at a shared universe in Bellworks just for like 5 hours and just talk about everything. Everything's on the table. We've pretty much all said.
We kick the shit out of each other.
Basically. Well, listen, I've had private conversations with the 3 of you individually where I know there is a shared perspective, again, thanks to hindsight, with a lot of things. And at the same time, there's some things to be aired out. I mean, we hung out on Saturday and I kind of, opened up a little bit more and expanded a little bit more on some feelings and, some stuff I was going through unbeknownst to you, like during the different, the different waves, the ups and downs of the history of that show. And it's something that we were just going to kind of talk about. And I said, it's happening this year. It's happening in 2022. Now, it would be nice if it happens in 2023 because it's the 10th anniversary of Cape, 10 years since Cape started. But I don't know because, again, one of the reasons that show didn't work out is because the 4 of us can rarely agree on anything. Right. So that's kind of one of the hurdles of having to do something in a group, and that's why that show officially no longer exists, at least as far as I'm concerned, which essentially means it officially no longer it is officially over because we just can't. It's difficult for us to get on the same page. It happened for a little while, and it was great when we were for a while, but it happened less and less frequently, and that made it less sustainable. I was tripping over that because I'm like,
yes.
Yeah, it's like my tongue is like a melting candle in my mouth. I just licked the microphone. How many people have been in here today? Gross. I know. See, going for a joke, and now I'm going to wake up tomorrow with COVID. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about our history. Or are we? Yeah. We might be. No, that's it. But if you were wondering, that was supposed to happen last year. It would be nice if it happens this year, but there's no guarantee that it's going to happen this year. Again, just because of 10 years of Cape, it'd be like, well, let's look back on the history of everything and talk about it. But just, who knows what's going to happen. So if anyone's curious, I know, but it's a matter of getting all 4 of us and agreeing on a day and everything and getting everybody talking, which is, it can be a lot.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things you and I have kind of talked about that at this point, like time has passed. Like you and I were both going back and forth. That must have been January because there was that bullshit list Rolling Stone put out, the 100 greatest singers of all time, which was horrendous. And I'm like, I don't know if by the time the show comes back, anyone's going to care because it's one of those things everybody was on fire about for a week and then swiftly moved on to something else.
We can touch on it.
I mean, I don't mind touching on it in as much as it was a bullshit list. For it did what it was supposed to do because I've regarded Rolling Stone as a rag for aging hippies for a long time.
But it got people talking for a few minutes.
And that's all they wanted. Right. And it succeeded on that level. Yeah. So much so that in, I think it was March, they did another list, 100 greatest heavy metal songs of all time. What the fuck does anybody at Rolling Stone know about heavy metal? The reason I bailed out on Rolling Stone, junior year of high school, when, they're whatever the trend is, they're trend humping in that magazine. Everybody just trend humps. And junior year of high school, I had a subscription, which I don't remember if I actually subscribed to it, like sending a subscription card and a money order for $9.95 or something like that. Like, I don't remember why I had Rolling Stone. Or it could have been like, The Wall had a free like 6 months, if you bought 2 CDs or something back in the day. That's a super like mid to late 90s reference. But I remember reading, there was a glowing review of the second Limp Bizkit album, Significant Other. And I was like, I'm done.
That's what did you
Even at that point, I'm like, I'm done. I can't take this magazine seriously, even just based on this one fucker who wrote this positive review. I'm like, nope, no.
And then you got this list. I mean,
right. Which is pandering to the nth degree. Like I said, Ariana Grande is number 43 greatest singers of all time. Tell me how isn't that bullshit?
And if I remember correctly, Freddie Mercury wasn't even in the top 10.
Yeah.
I think they placed Beyonce higher than him on the list.
Of course.
Like, get the fuck
out
of here.
The glaring omissions were the shocking thing. It's like, look, for my money,
Celine Dion,
which whether or not
she's your thing,
whether or not you like the music, you cannot fuck with her abilities. Like on a technical sense, she's an amazing voice.
Right. And the thing that I was confused about, I don't know what they based this upon. Was this,
clicks,
as far as
desire
singer,
for clicks?
Is this your ability as a singer or your aura as a performer all around? Because, for instance, on this list, they put Taylor Swift significantly higher on the list than Kelly Clarkson. Now, I like Taylor Swift a lot. I think she's extremely talented in many ways. I like a lot of her music.
I do too.
But if we're talking about vocal chops, range, power, control, in no fucking universe is she a better singer than Kelly Clarkson.
Right.
In no universe. There are objective ways to measure this.
Right. And she was probably top 10. But then the singers that were not on the list.
They were not even close. Like Kelly Clarkson was like 190
something. Of course. But I'm saying like she was probably, Taylor Swift was probably like top 10. It's like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Adele,
Taylor Swift was right back too.
Was she?
Still significantly higher. I'm like, no.
No.
If you're talking about her as a performer all around, you can make the argument, sure. But as a singer alone, no. But like, who's ranking these people? Yeah.
The omissions were glaring. It was, like I said, Celine Dion, whether or not you like it, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, which granted, you're not a fan of Iron Maiden, but motherfucker can throw it down. So that was one that I took umbrage with. Luciano Pavarotti was not on the list. Again, no one's, a lot of people aren't fighting over like who's the best opera singer, but like, how is he not ubiquitous?
Right.
And again, it's hard to make an argument for just like, well, he's not one of the top 200. I guess it was 200 singers. It's like, well, clearly he wouldn't make the cut. Yeah. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
So what was the criteria? How did they rank?
Pandering.
These singers. How did they come up?
Pandering,
with this?
Trend, humping, aging hippies who want clicks. And again, they did the same thing with like the best heavy metal songs of all time. And listen, a song like Cult of Personality will never die, just gets more and more popular. Right. But like was number 12. And I'm like, I don't know that I would put Living Colour in the heavy metal category necessarily, but like, okay, 12? And I don't remember what the top songs were. And look, I'm not shitting on them. I'm a fan of the band. So I'm not saying that, but it's like, okay, obviously that's something you would never have put on the list, except for the fact that song gets more and more popular and, has been used in wrestling for, what's his name, CM Punk's entrance music. So it got more popularity for that. Right. It was on the finale of The Walking Dead, the series finale of The Walking Dead, they played it. So like clearly there's pandering in there as well, even though that band's deserving of so many more accolades in a lot of ways.
It was on Guitar Hero.
That's the song that keeps getting bigger and bigger, but that's why it's number 12 of the greatest heavy metal songs of all time. It's not because they actually think it belongs there. Right. They don't know what the fuck is going on. Yeah. I'm sure that's what inspired.
To both of us.
So it was. I
scanned the list and I was like, what the fuck? No.
Like everybody. And again, that was the one that kind of got to me. It was like Ariana Grande. I'm like, she sounds like a 12-year-old girl to me. I mean, look,
she's got a voice.
Okay,
I have no issue with her being in the top 200, I guess, but
not above all these other people, and not with all these omissions. Like I just thought that was total bullshit.
Yeah.
So we could have spent an hour on that had we done it in we done this like February. But I'm like, I don't know. We need to talk about this. But
I did a very brief scan and I saw a whole bunch of things. I was like, nope, none of this is
correct. I didn't click the article because I didn't even want to give Rolling Stone that level of engagement. Right. Like there were a lot. I mean, certainly a lot of the heavy metal websites picked it up, it's like Loudwire and, sites like that where they were summarizing or they gave the whole list or they were pointing out omissions like Bruce Dickinson or and even they were pointing out just like whether or not you like Celine Dion's music. Like, how can you say she's not a great singer? It's like they could be objective enough to say like this come on.
It's
you know.
objectivity. Is what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It totally. Yeah. And these lists are obviously completely subjective, you know. And look, a lot of them do their own lists of just like, you know, here's every Def Leppard album ranked, and like I don't necessarily agree with it, or or like here's you know, there's something about about Motley Crue. We're going to rank the Motley Crue albums. And obviously something like that is subjective too, but it's also like, it's
you
not
see
the
those
same.
everywhere on Facebook. It's like, this band's album is ranked best to worst or worst to best.
And like that's subjective, but like you're talking about the entirety of singing across all genres. Like that's something you're just, they're recording this kind of attention. And look, they succeeded. And like I said, they made this other list, which didn't make as much noise, so much so that I didn't read any articles about it. I follow Vernon Reed from Living Color on Twitter, and he's very active on Twitter. So he mentioned about, you know, being honored about being in there, and is fine with the song even being embraced as heavy metal. Right. Which some people are like, really though? Like, you guys, would you consider yourselves to be like heavy metal? He's like, I'm happy to be included. I'm happy for the song to be ranked highly. And like you should be. Yeah. You know, again, that's one of those songs that will just live forever. Yeah. That clearly. So, anyway, the fuck is going on? Like from me because your phone went off, or is something actually going on?
Just some bullshit I'm dealing with. No worries.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I'm just checking. I'm like, I'm not going to like leap across the table and be like, you son of a bitch. I mean, it would be kind of funny.
It would be.
If you had a camera on, I would, because then at least we'd have an angle.
Well,
I'm kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I think that the benefit of this gag would work without there being an angle of it. Like, it's funny for you to just hop screen right. You just hear the fighting noises.
Let's back it up. Can you
phone on silent?
Yeah.
Put your fucking phone.
Yeah, I'd put in a bunch of put in a smoke effect.
Ryan just sits
so I was getting the shit.
Like, oh, God. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That actually would have been good.
It's not that serious.
Yeah. It's like, guys.
All right, we'll take it from the top. Ready and action. Beep, 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 beep.
Hey.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry, Bob.
Like,
come on now.
Oh, you're going to be sorry. Now I'm pulling off my belt. No, not really. It's okay. That was good, though.
Oh, thank you for that.
That was good. No problem. Oh, God. Well, let's talk about some other people who suck, because you and I have a bone to pick with a certain type of person. And we did a whole episode. Now that I think about it, yeah, we did a whole episode at the end of 2020 about our experience deliveries. You working for restaurants, also you did DoorDash for a bit. Right. I've done DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Postmates once upon a time. Right around the time you were writing the No Seatbelt blog. Yeah, I was doing Postmates out in Los Angeles, and there's this whole. Now, actually, one of the things that got me started on this was there was this whole thing that blew up on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. It was in March, so it was more than a couple of weeks. But there was somebody posted about there were a bunch of some people who it turns out they were European, which was a follow up to the tweet. But just to put it out there before I tell the story, which may be the wrong way to construct a story. So maybe I'm not such a great host. Shit, I've learned nothing in the last 13 years. All right,
you're getting there.
Fair to Midland host. But these people ended up running up a tab of $7,000 all in was the bill, and they left like a $700 tip. They left 10%, and they said, was it 700? See, now I'm trying to remember if it was that or if it was less. But anyway, they left a very low tip, and the manager came over and said, "Is everything okay?" Because or else they're like, "Oh, the service was great," and they were like, "Oh, well, it's customary for 15-20% tip something." And they were like, "Oh, okay," and they didn't leave any more tip. Mm-hmm. And people were freaking out. People were defending like, "Well, there's no tipping in Europe because there's also we'll get into the what happens in the service industry in Europe." Yeah. But it started a whole like firestorm on Twitter where this thing had like 10. Now that there's a tweet view count, which is fucking stupid, this thing had like 10 million views or something. Like it blew up for a couple of days, and people are having this ongoing debate, right? And I think it was something like $7,000 bill, and they left like 700. Yeah, like left like 10%. It wasn't peanuts, but it was like 10% considering how much money you dropped. Like they left a pretty low tip in proportion, totally. And that's also why people have, or a lot of restaurants rather, have like a set gratuity for, I don't know how big a party it was, but it's like parties of 8 or more, or parties of 6 or more, 10 or more, something. Right. Where there's a gratuity built in. I mean, they
built it right into the total bill.
Yeah, I went to a place in the city, a bar restaurant in February, and at all parties it was a standard 20% gratuity built in. I'm like, good, all right, that's fine. Yeah. And also because when the bill comes, I'm just signing it and that's it. Right. Nobody needs to pull out the phone and calculator. Everybody turns to me because Well, also like my math is pretty good when it comes to like, well, what's 20% of 80? $16. Okay.
Right.
Like that's good. I'm not exactly Rain Man, but I'm pretty quick when it comes to like math fundamentals.
Right.
And anyway, so it's one of the things that I can't believe this is a conversation we're still having in America. Like in society, period, in 2023. I really can't believe this is a thing because you have a problem in particular. There's this whole thing going on social media when it comes to the people when it comes to tipping at a restaurant, particularly when someone's like, literally you're paying on a tablet.
Right.
And someone's spinning the tablet kind of thing.
So when you go to pick up food, do you tip $1 or $2?
Yes, if I'm paying by card and there's a tipping option on the screen,
there's a tipping option.
I will add.
If they make it easy enough to.
Of course, I will add at least 15%. If it's a place like earlier today, I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts and there isn't a tip option. You just insert your card and it just runs it. It doesn't even give you a debit credit option.
Right.
It just runs it as credit and that's that. I just got a coffee and a donut. Mm-hmm. But I had 2 singles on me, so I threw them in there because someone's still taking the time to make the coffee, and it's just like, here you go. And at the same time, there's $1 in there and a mishmash of a hodgepodge of change, as they say on Jeopardy. And and I'm like, and not because I look great, but I'm like, there's 2 people working here. The one's getting me the donut, ringing me up. The other one's making the coffee, or maybe the same woman made the coffee. I wasn't looking, but I'm like, whatever. I'll throw in $2,
right?
Because they're working, and I get it. Mm-hmm. And they're not working at Dunkin' Donuts because they're bored.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
like, I just need to get out of the house while my kids are at school.
They're trying to make a living. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, if I'm throwing in $2 and a couple more people do it throughout the day, that's going to make a big difference at the end of the day, at the end of the week, et cetera. So yes, but when it's as easy as just tapping a screen and adding a tip, especially because most places you're going are, a lot of places do this are small businesses. They're rarely like chains.
Right.
Like I don't think Starbucks has like a tipping option on the card. No, they don't. They have the same thing. You insert your card and that's it. Or you scan the barcode on the app.
Some places do, some places don't.
Right.
So there's this thing going around, a sort of a statement.
Yeah. This culture.
That's become a meme where it's like proudly boasting that you refuse to tip the person who, quote unquote, flips the iPad around.
Right.
Now, let me ask you, do you really think that is all that person does all day long?
Fuck no, it's not. No, it's not.
No,
and the
not.
idea that you're not tipping these people isn't the flex you think it is.
Right.
It's
you
really
are,
not.
You are
It
an
makes
asshole.
You come across as an asshole more than it
Right.
really
Yeah, you come across as an elitist, entitled asshole.
So my thing is, it's one thing to not do it. It's another thing entirely to brag about not doing it. To make you think like it's a flex.
Exactly.
Like maybe you think that you're above this person who you think.
Listen, my thing is like I try to do it as often as I can, but I know I'm on a fixed income, so it's
right.
like,
and that's not the thing. I don't necessarily judge everyone for not tipping everyone everywhere they go.
Of course,
there are some people who are like,
everybody has
I don't know.
circumstances.
Am I supposed to tip this person? There are some times where I'm out and I'm like, I don't know. Am I supposed to give this person a tip if it's something I haven't run into before?
Mm-hmm.
But this person who you think just flips the iPad around all day, they're prepping food, they're running food, they're cleaning, they're taking orders on the phone. They're making this place run.
Totally.
Where your lazy ass just went to pick up food because you didn't want to cook dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that as a shot because I'm lazy too. And sometimes, even if I have perfectly good food in the house, I'm like, I'm not doing it tonight. I can't.
Right.
So I go out and I'm getting takeout or delivery. And you bet your ass I'm tipping that person.
Totally. Well, it's even if you're just getting coffee and you throw $1 down.
Right.
Or it can add $1 or something.
Break your bank. And if you have money to get takeout, then you have money to tip.
Fucking A right. That's what I've been saying forever. It's like the idea
30% or 50%, like you have $1 or $2 that you can give to this person who's working like you did. And like
exactly.
Like, why would you brag about this? Why?
Especially in an age right now where everybody seems to be universally struggling.
Exactly. Right now, people are really just trying to keep their heads above water.
Oh, my favorite
in a lot of ways.
If you're a boomer who thinks it's like a punk teenager, you were a punk teenager working somewhere in a diner in the 50s, weren't you?
And you wanted tips.
Or a drive-thru.
Totally.
Like, you wanted tips at that time, so everyone was there. And you like, why are you judging this person? Like, they just made you food.
You know what I love? Well, not really, but like, it's been infuriating to see online.
What's this?
Now it's the new thing where landlords have been trying to encourage people to leave tips for their landlords.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, why? For what? The landlord doesn't. You know what my relationship should be with a landlord? None.
Yeah.
None.
I don't want
It's
to be
like,
friends with my
Yeah.
landlord.
no, same thing. It's like
Can
people
I just pay online and never see?
Yeah, totally. That's what I'm saying. Like, is there a kiosk where I can
Pay
just
my
insert my
rent
debit
and-
card? Yeah.
right.
I mean, those exist in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same when people ask me just like, what do you think of your car insurance? I'm like, I have no relationship with them, so I recommend it. Like,
Right.
that's my ideal relationship with my car insurance
They're
company.
on auto pay. Like I'm good. I never
Exactly.
speak to them.
Yeah. Like, I don't know because I haven't gotten hit and I don't hit anybody. I've been in
Right.
accidents. So, like, I don't
Exactly.
interact with them. So I'll recommend them based on, like, everything's smooth so far.
Yeah.
But yes, same
And
like
it's
the
like,
idea
yeah,
like
it's
a
been on
landlord.
auto pay for 10 years. I don't even know what I'm paying at this point.
Right? Yeah. Like
It just comes out.
I have no idea. My rent could be double what it was 5 years ago, and I really don't know.
Right.
But the idea of like I mean, people get pissed when it's just like I'm not giving anything to my mail delivery person at Christmas. Like, why not? This
Right.
person shows up every day, and like that's a
I
job
mean,
that sucks.
They're
you
not
know?
supposed to accept it, from what I've heard.
No,
Yeah,
but
for
again, people
federal,
who
but,
brag about like,
who
why should I
brag
give
about
it to them? They got a government job and they blah
Right.
blah. It's like, yeah, but they're walking through the rain, the snow, the heat, the
Yeah.
humidity,
And
like
they
everything,
have to.
every
Weather
fucking
doesn't stop
day.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're also making sure you're not getting bullshit that isn't addressed to you,
Right.
or something like that. But it's like, why would you not? My parents literally they generally have one person, but sometimes there's another person. So they have two people delivering their mail throughout the year. So they do like to leave something for them around the holidays just as a thank you. Look, I do the same thing. I go to get a massage once a month. I like giving the woman who's my massage therapist a tip at the end of the year because why not? It's like, even though I do after every session, it's just like, thanks for taking care of me. It's the holidays. I appreciate it. Just something extra just to show gratitude.
Right.
And it's not like I'm doing so well that's just like, I don't care. I'm just going to spread money around to all that. But it's this idea of, I don't know. For me, gratitude's a big deal with me. And when it comes to tipping people and showing them you appreciate it. And at the same time, again,
And
people
just not
who are,
acting like you're above these people who are in the service industry.
that's the shit I got. That's the
Especially
shit.
if you've ever worked in any sort of service position.
Exactly.
How would you treat
That's how
people like this?
Exactly.
To be
And
honest,
that's where my stance comes from. Like I've been on the receiving end of my fair share of
that's also
bullshit.
how I know when
Working in
someone
retail.
hasn't worked in that industry when they
Right.
bitch about not tipping.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you haven't done this.
Exactly. You don't know what that's like.
And the argument coming from Europe, and even people are arguing against like tipping servers in restaurants. Even
Oh,
now,
God, yeah.
Americans who have been here their whole lives and know how this works here.
Well,
They're like,
in
"Well,
France, you
it's
don't
not
tip.
it's not my fault your employer doesn't pay you. Like they pull out this bullshit. Well, until that changes, you
Yeah.
fucking tip the server.
Yeah. This is the
You went out
honorary
and they're
contract.
serving you food.
Exactly. And they make peanuts.
Right.
That's the other thing. It's not
and
like
these people all know what they make. They make like $2 and change an hour.
right.
And they get a paycheck where it's basically nothing.
Yeah. And
Taxes come out of
that they're dependent on tips. The whole
Right.
opening scene of Reservoir Dogs is about this shit,
Right.
And
Like, why are we still having this discussion?
I don't know, but people
that
act like,
industry-
well, in other parts of the world or like in Europe, they don't do that. Right. Because they
But this
actually,
isn't-
they set a standard of living wage, like a realistic wage. So tipping isn't a thing.
Right.
That's not something in America.
Right.
It just isn't.
And it's not going to
And
be
that's the-
anytime soon.
Exactly. That's
And
a
unless
tacit agreement when it comes
unless
to
there's
going
like
out
a
eating.
revelation that happens and this changes, you fucking tip the server.
Right.
It's not hard.
Exactly.
If you have money to go out to eat, you have money to tip.
Totally. And
And
even
don't say you don't. Like, then you don't have money to go out to eat. If
Right.
an extra $10 is going to break your bank, then you stay your ass home
Right.
and cook your own food.
I remember this was
Seriously.
at some point it must have been 2016 because I was out I did both Uber and Lyft. I started doing them in 2016 in Los Angeles. And I know it was Lyft because I used to favor Lyft more because you could tip. Like the Uber eventually added it. They caved to the pressure of just like, well, you can get tips at least. But, they also Uber also took a smaller percentage of once upon a time. You earned 75% of your Lyft wages plus tips. And Uber, you just earned 80% period. So, and because Uber was frankly more in demand for the most part, you ended up usually making more money. So I defaulted to Uber a lot. But I remember this case was Lyft because there were these two women and one was saying like, why don't you use Uber? And she was like, because Uber doesn't let you tip. I like that I can add a tip to the Lyft ride if the driver's nice and the car is clean and, we get there quickly and all this other stuff. She's like, I like knowing I can add a tip. And the other woman was like indignant, just like, I like knowing that the price is it's what I'm going to pay. And I'm thinking, really adding $5 to a $13 thing is too big a stretch for you, honey?
Right.
Like you can't do the math on that? Like maybe like this ride could be $18. Like they give you an estimate when you request the ride. You're telling me you can't mentally add $5 to that? You're not driving across state lines or anything.
No.
And these two, and they're going back and forth about it. These women were on their way out together. And it was one of those things where I just thought, wow, I can't believe, again, that this is a discussion, or that this woman who, seemed a little bit simple in my mind, like couldn't fathom the price. I just want to know the price I'm going to pay, and that's it. Like, it was so difficult for her to wrap her head around, like, no, I'd rather use this service because at least I can add a tip, and at least the driver's getting 100% of the tip.
Right.
And, that's still is
too difficult for some people, apparently.
There's, and speaking of shitty tippers, there's a friend of ours who works at a local brewery. And he was telling me that there's a guy who comes in who sometimes he just gets one beer, sometimes he'll get 3 beers. Always leaves a $1 tip. Always leaves one single. That's right, 1 GW. We'll leave it. And that's it. Doesn't matter how many beers he gets.
Right.
$1, no matter what. And he's like, the guy comes in. I mean, this is a regular. This dude comes in weekly. Not necessarily multiple times a week, but he's a regular, and he's okay with just being the asshole who tips $1, even if he gets 3 beers, which isn't a fortune, but there's still somebody who's, pouring the beer, who's, wiping down the counter, who's, whatever, or who's bringing it to your table, because you're not necessarily sitting up at the bar either. This is a place.
Yeah, you could be at a table.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah.
It's just like, thanks, man. Particularly, I was there one night when this guy walked in, and it's like, it was a slow night, and, it's not your responsibility to make sure the dude's, making money or ends up, it's worthwhile for a ship. But it's just like, this guy had, and this night he did have 1 beer, but he left $1. But it's like, what is another $1 going to break the bank for you? Is going to make that much difference in your life? No. Leave the dude $2. Even if you got a beer, which, I didn't know how much it was off the top of my head, but it's just like, leave $2 just as like a, hey, thank you.
Right. I mean, and generally for a beer, like $1 per beer is reasonable.
I'd even agree with that.
But even so, like that's not all that person's doing all day. Like there's all kinds of stuff they're doing.
Totally.
They're cleaning the bar in front of you. They're cleaning the tables. Sometimes they're bringing beer out to you. They're pouring the beer. They do so much behind the scenes. And you think they're just standing there like a robot just pouring beer and putting it in front of you.
Right.
They're not moving, and there's no effort involved in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't know where these people think, what do they think?
They've never had to do it, is the only thing I can imagine. Now, there's another thing.
Did I go on monster.com and say, oh man, iPad flipper, that sounds like a great job. That's all I have to do?
Well,
really?
that's the other thing people don't get. Again, people don't want to necessarily be working these jobs. They might be doing it to get by. It might be a second job. And even if it's a high school kid, so what? Right. Like, I've gone it plenty of times. I go to, maybe twice a month. I'll get something like Bubba Coo's Burritos. And a lot of them, they'll be like high school kids who are working there, 2 or 3 high school kids. But like, the place is clean. The tables are wiped down. They make the food efficiently. They're friendly. It's like, well, of course you throw on a tip.
Particularly, they're so friendly. Like,
yes,
almost nauseatingly so. And I'm like, why are y'all so happy?
Right.
But yeah, like I always say, like we have one around the corner from us. I always tip them when I go and pick up food.
Of course. And
they're so nice. They get it done fast. It's good. Like these people work hard. They work hard.
Yeah, and even if they're just making your food,
around, like dicking around on their phones when I come in there, they're making food, they're cleaning, they're prepping everything.
Exactly.
So, like, why do you feel like you're above them? Why?
I don't know.
They're not worth an extra $1 or $2 of yours.
Totally, and that is an example where if you pay on the screen, and that's another thing. It's like, well, you want the convenience of tap and pay,
right?
Or not having to pull out cash. You could just use your card or insert it in a tablet or whatever, and not to have to go through a whole. Anything. Like, you are getting the convenience of that. So don't begrudge the person because we as consumers have this convenience on our side. Right. So just because someone's spinning a tablet around and you can tap, no tip or 10%, 15%, 20% custom tip, whatever. Don't begrudge them because that's one of the things they're doing. Because you're telling me, like, if you handed them a 20 and they had to give you $4.62 in change, then that would merit a tip because they had to make change. Yeah, like that was such a, they didn't even have to do the math. The register did it for them. Yeah. Like, would that merit a tip then? Is it because they had to spin an iPad around? I mean, it's like the insensitivity and lack of, again, appreciation and gratitude for people who are just working and getting by. I mean, if your service is shitty, fine, then don't.
Right.
Or your order is wrong, fine, don't.
Right.
Like, I get that.
There are extenuating circumstances, of course, to this.
Yes,
like,
there are exceptions to the rule.
If there's truly, like, horrid service or they really fucked up your whole order, fine.
Or they're rude, or they're talking to each other, or, whatever. Like, and I agree.
So there are situations where I'd say, okay, well, maybe this time they don't deserve a tip because they're...
But the bragging. The bragging.
Yeah, just don't brag about it.
The idea that they want to brag about it, what a big deal it is. Now, that's another thing. That's another thing I've run into because I've done it more often, but what I still do and I mean this as of fall and even into the early part of this year, I still do Uber Eats and DoorDash some of the time. And part of the reason I do it is because, well, number one, when the weather's nice and if I've nothing going on, like particularly if it's like a Friday or Saturday or something like that, and, in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, I'm like, I'll go out for 3 hours and mop up like $80 because I know the parts in North Jersey. I know the regions which there's a lot of demand and, it'll pay pretty well. So I'm like, I could go out for a few hours. I could catch up on a podcast or an audiobook or listen to Howard or something like that and enjoy the nice weather. And also I get turned on to restaurants I didn't know existed because I'm getting sent to places, you're not just picking up from Applebee's and McDonald's, you're picking up from some mom and pop place or some hole in the wall. They're just like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have like 60 restaurants saved
Right.
in Google Maps that I want to go check out.
You go into a place
I didn't know they
been,
existed.
You're like, man, it fucking smells great in
exactly.
here. Like,
Plus,
why have I not known about this place?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't know about it unless somebody told you.
Yeah.
So it is a way of getting turned on to new restaurants, and I've ended up going to a few, and I have a whole list of other ones I want to get to. But also I still get the gratification of getting paid that night.
Right.
Like literally there's DoorDash deposits it at the end of your dash, as they call it. It deposits to your debit card, which is a Visa debit card. And there's a Uber has a MasterCard. Same thing. After every delivery, it deposits. And then your tip posts an hour later, which we'll get back to that in a moment. And that just gets deposited straight to your Uber card. So you don't even need to like manually cash out. You used to have to do that, and there used to be a fee. But now they, to get away from that, they just automatically deposit. If you sign up for their card, which doesn't cost you anything, but just for the convenience, I'm like, cool. And I got $80 on me, which is just walking around money. I got to listen to something, catch up on something, enjoy the nice weather outside, better than staying home watching TV or something unproductive. Hopefully found some new spots to check out. And also one of the reasons I did it in the fall and even in the winter, also because it's cold, and if I just don't want to sit at home and like watch more TV, or it's just like, okay, well, I don't want to rush through Sopranos too quickly. Maybe I won't watch it tonight, kind of thing. I would go out, and also it's how I reviewed last year's episodes of Cape. Because if I just sit and just listen back to this show, listen to me for an hour and change, I'd go fucking crazy. Yeah. So that's another way I can utilize the time. Be like, okay, I'm going to listen to one episode tonight. Okay, that went by. That was breezy. Maybe I'll listen to two. So I can make my notes for best of, for what was going to go in best of 2022, and for video clips, because when I review every episode, I might not catch everything. And also, I watch the videos back. So listening to them is a different experience. And since the best of is an audio release, I'm like, oh yeah, that does play funny. Like listening back, like, okay, that is a funny moment. Maybe there's something I didn't catch while I was watching it because something else kind of had my attention. Just like something, it sounds like something just collapsed outside of here. What the fuck is that? It happened last year too. Corey and I did, what was it, a Cape 203, I think? And there was like, it sounded like there was like someone was using a dentist drill like right above us for almost the entire show. Christian was here, and it was distracting. We eventually had to tune it out because we're like, we got to keep going. We can't wait for this thing to stop. We were like, something's going on like around here, and I don't know what it is. This place gets weird at night. Yeah. Anyway, we used to have the run of Bellworks, and now all these other people are coming in. It's bullshit. Yeah. So anyway, all that to say, still doing Uber Eats and DoorDash some of the time. Now, there's another thing on social media, and I've seen a lot of it on TikTok, where people get pissed, understandably so. Hey, it's not my fault DoorDash doesn't pay their employees. No, they're not employees. If in 2023 you don't know that DoorDash and Uber Eats and Uber and all that these people aren't independent contractors, congratulations, you're a jackass. Yeah, that's on you. Yeah. Now here's the thing:
ignorance at this point.
Yeah, you cannot blame these people. And again, people are doing it for the money. They're not doing it because it's part of the parole agreement or something. Right. So they are trying to make money. And
I mean, you do get paid by DoorDash outside of a tip, but in general.
But here's the thing, and that's something that changed. Definitely in the beginning of 2023, the base rate for Uber Eats and DoorDash, the base pay you will get is $2. That is it. So if you're not tipping your driver, odds are they're getting $2 or between $2 and $3, and that's it. Meanwhile, you're sitting home on your fat ass expecting them to deliver a Big Mac as quickly as possible. And that's the thing. People get really bitchy about like, it says my order's ready. It's like I'm already on the way.
So I haven't done it in... probably a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years.
Right.
So if that's changed since then, Jesus, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even do it now at this point, especially where I live.
Oh, no. And that's why, like I said, I've done it here and there, but it's like my threshold was always I wouldn't accept anything that paid less than $7.
Right.
Just because it wasn't worth the time.
Right.
I'm like, if by the time I get to this place and I pick up the order And then, I get it to them. If it takes a half hour, if I do 2 of those, $14 an hour, that's minimum wage. But I'm also spending my money on gas. I'm putting mileage on my car.
Wear and tear on your car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that stuff, when you file your taxes, ultimately, like you are able to deduct those things. But on a week-to-week basis, if it's something that, and it was a chunk of my income for a while, even though it was mostly driving, although I did switch to doing Uber Eats as well during my last 6 to 9 months in Los Angeles. I would do Eats during dinner time, and then I'd switch over to rides about 8 p.m. I do 6 to 8 deliveries because it was busy, because a lot of people were ordering dinner. And overpopulated city like Los Angeles. Yeah, exactly. Driving around Burbank, and it's no shortage of deliveries for a little while, although I probably could have done it all night. But you made more money driving, and you also made more money the more distance there was, the more distance that you drove. And it's same with deliveries. But the idea that your driver is getting $2 is all they're going to get if you're not going to tip. Yes, they do deserve $3, $2, something like that.
Right.
And the idea that you feel like, it's not my responsibility. Yes, it fucking is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, because they're doing a service for you. And again, they're spending their money on gas. They're using their personal vehicle. And if you feel like they should just be doing it and they should get paid whatever, and you select no tip, then you're an asshole.
You're an asshole.
Now, what makes it even worse, unfortunately, and this is something that has not changed, you can modify your tip, because I think in Uber's mind, if people are happy with the service, they will increase the tip so the tips won't show up till an hour later. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are assholes who will zero out the fucking tip. So you could see this delivery is guaranteed for $9, and then you will get some random ass, fee, it's $3.78 for the delivery, and wait for the tip. And then it used to say specifically the estimated amount for the trip was $9, but the customer changed the tip after the delivery. But now it just says the estimate for this trip was $9, and it won't say the customer changed the tip. But there are assholes who their word must be out that, they don't get the delivery. Because listen, if you tip better, you're going to get better service. I can say that for myself, number one, because if somebody's paying well for something, obviously I'm going to be efficient about it. I'm going to be friendly. Whereas if it's a slow night and I see, $2.75 for McDonald's, which what a zoo that place is every hour of every day.
Yep.
So I don't even accept most fast food restaurant deliveries because it's just a mess to get in there. Some places have been on the ball, but by and large, those are ones I would have declined most of the time. And also those ones people don't tip. The people who are most egregious when it comes to not tipping are people with money and people who are broke ass. Mm-hmm. Those are the two people who don't tip. Working people tip.
Right.
It's the people who've never had to work, particularly never had to work in the service industry or something where tips were even a consideration. Exactly. Because, there are a lot of people who order McDonald's all the time. That's the most frequent one. It's always fast food. Most of the time, frankly, it's McDonald's. Yeah. Whereas, and I'm declining it. And it's so funny. Like you saw.
If I see this happen once, the next time I'm going to eat your fucking fries on the way, and then you're not going to have them.
Well, that's something that's happened. See, there are times where there has been a little bit of distance. Now, I accepted this delivery. This is back in December, January. Again, I was reviewing the episodes from last year for Best Of. And I was up in North Jersey, and there was a pickup at this restaurant that I didn't realize, because they'll give you an overview of the map and they'll tell you an estimate amount of time and the mileage, that stuff. Those metrics have gotten better on both DoorDash and Uber Eats, which is good because it helps me be more discerning, because there's really no penalty for declining orders. So again, if something doesn't pay well or, is too much of a distance, I'm like, fuck this, and I decline it. But this one, I couldn't see that it was actually going into New York State. Not super deep into New York State, but you're still ordering food from another state. I'm still driving your dinner across state lines.
Yeah.
And it was $12. So in my mind, I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to pick this thing up and then drop it off. I pulled up to the person's house, and I was suspicious because I'm like, I had to drive this far to drop it off. I drove 9 miles. I'm like, I wonder. So I swiped to complete the delivery, and then the total amount that came up was the total amount of the guarantee because they didn't tip. I opened my passenger window, I threw the bag in their fucking driveway and drove off.
Yeah.
Because fuck them.
Right.
I'm sorry. You don't tip, you're going to get bad service. Plain and simple.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
You know what? That's on you. And that's one of these things people have said, TikTok stuff. It's just my driver threw it up in a tree. This is the message they sent me. Be fuck you. I drove a half hour and you only tipped me $1 and stuff like that. It's
Yeah, and you fucking
you
deserve
it. You deserve that. Mm-hmm. Okay, because again, the tacit agreement we have, the silent agreement is you need to tip people who are providing you a service. And again, these people are using their vehicles, they're putting gas in their car. Yep. And even it's the same, it's a frustrating thing with doing ride share. Exactly. It's like, this person is putting wear and tear. They're getting paid a portion of the fare. But when you look at all the fees, like the service fees and all that shit, that doesn't go, most of that goes to the company. Yep. Like I said, $2. That's all the drivers are getting for these deliveries. So if you give them a $5 tip, Oh, it gradually became less and less when it came to, I remember when I was driving, look, I stopped driving people prior to the pandemic, obviously, because I was like, fuck, I did for a little while. And I moved back to Jersey just to bring in a couple of bucks. And I was like, fuck this. But it used to be like $5 would be the minimum cost for a rider. And then after the percentage was taken off, it was like $3.75. And then Uber kept making that lower and lower and lower, and I guess they made the price lower. So then it became $2.62 was all you would get minimum for a ride, which I'm like, why would I bother?
Right.
Why would I do? Which is why with just doing food deliveries, I'm like, I'm going to be totally discerning. Like if it doesn't pay, even $6, because then I'm like, okay, well, the person probably tipped, $4, $3, something. Like at least they tipped. That's cool. And the other thing is because people are so dependent on these apps. And I've gone out typically in the weekends, like I said, a Friday or Saturday or Sunday or something like that. Like nobody's ordering delivery on a Monday. It just doesn't pay to do that. You want to make it worth your while if you're going to go out and do these things. You will get, DoorDash will bundle 2 orders together. Uber Eats now does 3. Oof. So if you're ordering delivery on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, trust me, pay the extra. I think both of them have like $2 or $3 for priority. So it goes straight to you. Because if you're ordering food on the weekend, your order is getting bundled in with a bunch of other people's orders, and the app dictates what order your food is picked up and what order it's dropped off. The driver has no control over that. And people got bitchy about that stuff like that. It's just like, how long is it going to be? How long is it going to be? It says, it's on the way, blah, blah, blah. And I will send them, I honestly would do, just because I'm driving, a voice dictated message of just, yours was, there were 2 orders and yours was picked up first. And then there was an order that was being picked up and dropped off in between. And again, people will then reduce tips because of shit like that.
Right.
But also
which is not your fault.
No, not at all. Yeah. But for some reason, because this person didn't want to pay the extra $2, they're also just like, well, the driver's not getting anything either. And people are just brainless when it comes to when they order stuff anyway. Like I've had people in like summer or fall, it's like they're ordering milkshakes and it's 25 minutes away.
I know.
Yeah. What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
Why don't you notice how far away you're ordering from? I don't even understand that. It's the same when people order from like a McDonald's or a Chipotle or a Starbucks. It's like, this is the closest one?
Yeah.
Why are you ordering from so far away? I think people don't even pay attention to that.
Nope.
So it's like your food's going to be cold, and it's not my fault because your ass didn't notice how far away you're ordering from. You saw like, I want Wendy's.
Right. It's something really cold or really hot, and then like,
exactly.
What's the matter with
you? And like, sorry, look, I'm putting it in an insulated bag, but I'm running the air conditioning. It's July.
Right. Like I had to deliver one single coffee from Starbucks. I drove from Shrewsbury to some rich woman all the way in Rumson.
Oh,
it was like 20 minutes, and it cost her like $11. Like I made like $9 to deliver this coffee, but it was such a trip from where I was, and I'm like, you had to DoorDash this, really?
I think I talked about this
and
when
she
we
like came to the door in sweatpants, and I'm like,
of course she fucking did,
in this mansion, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, she's no concept.
Yeah.
A woman like that has no concept.
Like,
a person like that has no
there's
concept.
my coffee, plebe.
Yeah, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's just like there are people who would do this for me. The little people will deliver my coffee. Right. I remember, I probably told this in 2020, but I'm not expecting anybody to go back and listen to like episode 140 something. But when I was doing Postmates in Los Angeles, which was a funny thing. So Postmates was the first delivery app that I'd heard of. And it was in San Francisco. I don't know if it was even on the East Coast yet. Because they were all those tech companies are based in San Francisco, but it was in Los Angeles, and it was like a smaller operation then. They exist in Jersey now, but they actually partnered with Uber Eats. I don't know. I saw something about that where I guess like some places that don't take Uber Eats take Postmates, so Postmates like outsource them to Uber. I don't know how it works. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, it's like all the streaming services. At a point, there's going to be very few of these things left because there's not enough to go around for everybody. There's only so much availability in my mind and so much demand. But anyway, There used to be a Facebook group for Postmates delivery drivers that was started like by Postmates in Los Angeles, and Postmates shut it down because
they did.
they were exchanging information that was helpful. It's like, don't deliver to this building, don't pick up from this restaurant, the order's never ready on time or something like that.
Right.
And because it was mostly negative shit, but also like letting drivers know, like it wasn't like drivers bashing each other, but they were also sharing like shitty deliveries, just like, well, I had to drive all the way up into the hills for this one thing, and it's just like, and then drive 15 minutes down so I could get back in range of another restaurant kind of thing. You know, there were different things like that to be helpful to the drivers. And of course, they shut it down. Anyway, one of them, and it happened to me because this is before you would actually see like the pickup and drop off point and stuff like that. It happened to be Starbucks. And it was a pickup on the ground floor of this apartment building going upstairs to an apartment in the same fucking building. Now, granted, easy $5 for me, but really?
Really? Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And look, everybody now, and this has been a thing for a while and is a thing for people with money and anywhere. I don't want to single out Los Angeles, but let's be honest, people got money, they kind of don't give a shit. But now most people dress like hobos anyway, between the Crocs and the sweatpants and all that other shit. Just the way, or pajama pants, like people are kind of out in public looking shitty on the regular. But is it that difficult to come down, you know, from the 22nd floor and just get Starbucks there and then bring it back upstairs? It's actually worth it for you to pay somebody to do that for you? Like it's too big a schlep for me to go to the ground floor of my apartment. Yes.
That's peak laziness.
I don't understand that. And I'm like, there's a part of me, I don't know if I'm jealous of this person. Like I wish I had money like that where I just, it wouldn't even be a thought.
In my apartment
exactly. Be like, I feel like a coffee from downstairs, but I don't feel like going downstairs.
I don't feel like going downstairs.
Yeah, let me get some plebe to bring it up for me. I really don't know how I land on that stuff.
I don't miss this stuff. I don't miss it.
No, I don't. And again, I have done on occasion, and probably will again this summer. Again, if it's a nice date, I have nothing going on. It's like, let me go mop up a few bucks. Because again, it's walking around money.
Right.
It's not going to pay my rent.
Yeah.
Which I think is the thing where, you know, people think like, well, if I tip this person, I threaten the tip. Or if I lower the tip, maybe I'll get better service. Like, go ahead. I'm sure there are people who do this full time and it's their only source of income. And look, it was for mine for a while. I was struggling out in California and trying to find, legitimately trying to find a day job. Yeah. Forget my creative aspirations. You know, but there was enough demand that was a reliable source of income and also the comfort of like, I get paid tonight. Right. No, I could go out and drive around, and once I make $120, I could call it a night, which is great because I can pay my Verizon bill, and I don't need to worry about getting shut off.
Right.
You know, shit like that. It was worth it. So yeah, I do it on occasion. Like I said, it's worth it to find some restaurants that you could mop up some money, and you know, I'm not just going to sit home and listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something else and catch up on something else or review Cape episodes. So it was like a multifaceted way of going out and accomplishing a couple of things, but. Man, people are just more and more entitled, and it drives me crazy. And again, seeing this bragging on social media just makes it so much worse.
Just don't brag about it.
Oh my God! I don't understand. You
don't want to tip. Like, okay, you're still an asshole in general.
Right. Yeah.
Unless there's a very good reason to not tip.
If hell exists, I hope there's a section of hell for people who don't tip.
Just keep your mouth shut about it. You don't need. Why are you on Facebook bragging about it?
Because again, these people think it's a flex.
It's not.
They really do, and it's not.
No,
it's really not. It shows what an asshole you are. There's a small community of people who would be like, yeah, right on. I don't tip either. But most people, no.
You're so cool.
Because here's the thing, and I don't mean it in a Fight Club Project Mayhem kind of way, but you need people working on apps and delivering shit more than they need you. And I even said, look, I've given that feedback when I've had issues or had like things being reported for like being late or like you arrived at the restaurant late or like customer reported, you know, the order was late or something like that. And I will always write back. It's just like, I'll just stop. Like if you want to nitpick and you want to be like, this is a contract violation. I'll be like, listen, you need, I've said it straight up in feedback for DoorDash and Uber. I was like, you need me more than I need you. I will stop doing this and somebody else can do it and put up with it. But like, I don't need to do this.
That I delivered food to you and I'm standing out there ringing your doorbell for 10 minutes and you're not coming to the door. You decided to take a fucking shower, you know, when you knew food was coming. When I used to deliver pizza, that used to happen to me all the time.
Yeah, because you were working for a restaurant.
And this girl would come down with wet hair. I'm like, hello, I've been standing here ringing your doorbell, trying to call you. Like you knew you ordered food, right?
Yeah. Oh, God. So this was earlier this year.
God damn it. This pissed me off so much.
This is a couple of months ago. I was out doing a delivery, and it was, again, one of those, it was an Uber Eats delivery, and there were 3 orders batched together, which they do let you know. It's a group of 3 orders. Like when the prompt pops up on the screen and you can accept it or decline it, it will tell you like the estimated price. And in parentheses, it'll be 2 or 3. And so this was 3, but the first 2 were picking up at the same restaurant, which was a fried chicken place. So unfortunately, and again, this is one of those cases where it was like a Saturday night or a Sunday night and, a group of orders together. And one of the orders picked up at this fried chicken place, the first stop, was going to be the last one to be picked up. And then, pick up at the first place, fried chicken place, pick up 2 orders, go to the second restaurant to pick up the third order. And on my way to drop off the first one. And again, you don't see the distance, the address, nothing. So you don't know. All you know is the order that is being dropped off next or being picked up next. That's all you see on the app as a driver. So I don't even know what order they're being dropped off in. So I'm driving to the first delivery, which was from one of the orders from the fried chicken place, then the second delivery, which is a pickup from the second restaurant. As I'm on my way to the second drop-off, I get a call from the guy who ordered from the fried chicken place, the first pickup. So it says the order is going to be here, that you're on a delivery, and I just want to see when it's going to be here because I'm out, so I can just go pick it up at the restaurant. What? And I literally said that to him, and I'm driving at the time, so I'm like, ugh. What? Yeah, well, can I just go pick it up at the restaurant, just on my way, because I'm out right now. And I'm like, and I said this straight up to the guy, you ordered delivery and you're not even home? Yeah. Like he wasn't even fazed by the question.
Yeah.
And
it's like, yeah, of course. Why would I be home?
Exactly.
Why are you shocked? Yeah.
Exactly. And I was like, totally sir, normal. Your order's picked up. It's in my car already. Like, I'm not driving it back to the restaurant. Like, I'm dropping off one order. I was like, yours was, and again, I explained it to him accurately. Like, listen, yours was one of 3 orders because it's a Saturday night or whatever. And that's kind of what happens if you don't pay for priority, where it goes straight to you. I said, I'm dropping off the second order and then yours is next. I don't have an ETA. I won't until I drop off the second order. So let me send you an ETA, but I'm bringing it to your house. Like, I'm not driving back to the restaurant. So I drop off at the second place, and now he's the next stop. This drop off is 25 minutes away, 13 miles away. And now I'm like, am I going to drive 13 miles in 25 minutes for some guy who, again, at this point, I have a complex about, like, is this motherfucker going to zero out the tip?
Yeah.
Because he had to wait or because I'm not accommodating him?
Yeah.
So honestly, I called Uber support, which used to not, there wasn't always a number for these things, but I was able to call them and say that. And they were just like, well, if the customer is changing delivery instructions, like that's not your responsibility. So I can cancel the order. You will get paid the guarantee for picking up the order. But it will be marked as canceled and you can just dispose of the food. And I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you very much. So Uber driver support canceled the order and I got paid for the payout. And
I'd eat the food
for legal reasons, I disposed of the 2 boxes of 30 pieces of fried chicken. Just like they told me to.
Uh-huh.
I disposed of them just like they said.
Yes.
Again.
Disposed of.
Now, anecdotally, there's a fried
eat.
chicken place I can highly recommend. The chicken was delicious.
I'm sure it was.
And didn't cost much.
Yeah.
60 pieces of fried chicken were delicious. All goddamn 60 pieces of them. Not saying it's in any way related to that story. I'm just saying
at his cardiologist for the next month.
I've doubled my statins. Anyway, yeah.
Wow.
But I'm like, this is how fucking stupid people are. It's like I ordered delivery and I'm not home.
Yeah.
And realistically,
don't get in the shower. I want you at that door with bated breath.
Well, you know what probably happened? They were probably going somewhere else and ordered delivery, figuring like, oh, rather than pick it up on the way, we'll have it brought to the house. And then when we go to this person's house, we'll bring the food with us. And it wasn't there in time because they didn't want to pony up the $2 or $3 to have it delivered first thing. And so they're like, we need to go to the party. So we'll just go to the restaurant on the way and pick it up because we're idiots. And we didn't order delivery. Yeah. People are so fucking stupid.
Yes, they are.
So, and that's the thing. Like the stupidity of people just amaze me. And the entitlement is so much worse. I think it's even worse post-pandemic, if I'm being honest. I feel like everybody is just so entitled and impatient. I see that when I go out anywhere. I'm talking when I go to the grocery store, I'm talking when I go to a big box store, when I go to restaurants, when I go to pick up takeout, anything like that. I feel like customers are so fucking entitled across the board. And I'm just like, I'm so glad I don't need to do this anymore. I'm so glad this isn't my main source of income. Like I said, I will do it on occasion just for, just in
a little extra money.
Some extra money, get to listen to something else, enjoy the weather on a night when there's nothing going on, drive around with the window open. Hey, why not? But Oh, if I had to do it full time, I could not do it. My heart goes out to people who do. And again, I always tip, you know, and there is recommended tips. That's the thing. DoorDash in particular will recommend, like, based on the size of the order and the travel time and all this other stuff, they will recommend a tip. Right. You got to be a real asshole to click custom tip and then type in 0. That's the other thing. No tip is not an option. You need to go in and manually type in 0. So if you don't tip, you are such a tremendous asshole because you need to go in there and type 0 tip. And, you know, it's also why these people, you know, do no contact delivery too, because they don't actually have to see a person's face, the person who, you know, they're frankly taking advantage of.
Makes it easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it sucks so hard.
Yeah.
All right, enough complaining. Let's talk about something good. Okay, to wrap it up, because Christian's nodding off. Just kidding. He's not. We're too fucking loud. One of the absolute best accounts to follow on Twitter. I realize people are not fans of Twitter like they used to be, you know, the Bird app as you call it. But one of the best accounts to follow on Twitter is SNL hosts introducing the musical guest. It is an excellent. I've retweeted a bunch of times, and I don't know the handle. I could look it up, but for the sake of moving things along, I'm not. But there's always a theme. It's always the musical guest's birthday, the host's birthday, and it's great also because you realize the sheer vastness of people who have hosted SNL and who have been musical guests on SNL. It is fascinating. But whoever handles this account is a genius because not only will they put up an appropriate clip and like have a catalog, someone to catalog the host and the musical guest where they're able to coordinate with like somebody's birthday or like when someone passed away or something like that's who will then go up. This is the most genius one. So now, for a couple of reasons, there's a couple of layers to this, and there's so much of it that I love. The day after the 45th president's indictment, the tweet that went out was, because obviously that was later in the day, so this person already tweeted for that day, the account tweets the next day. The musical guest was Arrested Development. Now, what makes it even better is the host of that episode was Christopher Walken. So aside from the hilarity of just like Arrested Development, because like, yeah, this was something that like, oh shit, they actually, you know, are indicting this guy. Funny as it is, but what made it even funnier was Christopher Walken, in his inimitable, even though I'm about to imitate it, in his inimitable fashion said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Arrested Development." And I was doing that all day long in the Christopher Walken voice. And Christopher Walken is not an impression I have in the chamber, but I was so fascinated by just the rhythm of it. Just like, ladies and gentlemen, Arrested Development. In the way of like, is he reading it off a cue card? Is he like, has he not seen the words Arrested or Development like at all or together? Right. You know, to where he's kind of delivering it in that way. It was perfect. And the brilliance of like having that in the chamber of just like, I know what I'm tweeting out tomorrow. I know the video I'm tweeting. Right. It was so great. I love this account so much.
It's always funny when you see like whoever's hosting the show and they clearly have no idea who the fuck the musical guest is when they're just like.
Yeah. Well, there used to be in the 70s and 80s.
Tonight, but I'm like, and you can tell by the look on their face and when they say the name, you're like, this guy has no idea who they are.
Yeah.
Like, clearly has no idea. They just met them tonight. Never heard of them before tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Or when they're too excited, it's like, ladies and gentlemen, see ya! It's like, you've never heard of Sia. You don't know who she is. Yeah, exactly. It's like, really?
It's like, I have no idea who this is, but I'm going to turn it on.
And make it really... Well, once upon a time, like in the 70s and 80s, you'll see some of these clips, they do like a full like 1 minute bit to introduce the guest. Or it'll even be like some of the cast members in costume or something. Like it used to be very, very elaborate. And one of the ones that went out recently, and I'm not sure what the occasion was, maybe it was Johnny Cash's birthday. Maybe it was Elton John's birthday. But it's something that's been making the rounds in the current social media climate. But it was Elton John was a musical guest. Johnny Cash was the host. And they switched outfits. So Johnny Cash is wearing this frilly pink outfit that Elton John would be wearing as he introduced. And Elton John's dressed like Johnny Cash, like a cowboy, basically. Right. Phenomenal. Phenomenal clip just to see that. And at the same time, like, and that's why it's all, I love that acknowledgement when it comes to like, we're musicians and just like, it's all show business. Right. Like that's the fun part when you see people are just like, listen, this is all the same thing. We're getting dressed up in costumes. It's not like, you know, this is genuinely how I dress. This isn't a costume, as you will attest. This is like, it's more real. It's more of a uniform than anything, but this is genuinely how I dress. But, you know, it could be like Johnny Cash was like, I'm going to be the man in black. I'm not saying this was a definitive choice necessarily, but it's like, it's all show business. And, you know, Elton John's going to dress like Donald Duck, or he's going to dress in something pink and frilly with oversized glasses or something like that's totally cool.
Right.
It's all the same thing. It's all entertainment. And it's also fun to see moments like that where it's just like, okay, they get it. They understood, like, listen, not a whole lot of crossover. I mean, now they frankly probably get played on the same station and be a lot of crossover in like Elton John and Johnny Cash songs. But just at the time in the 70s, it's like, that's perfect to just have that acknowledgement.
Let's just do it up. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, the Arrested Development, thank God that killed me for so many reasons. Aside from the timing of it was so good and just the delivery of, I'm telling you, all day long.
Yeah.
Out loud.
It just seems befuddled.
To nobody.
Yeah. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Arrested Development. So that's my Christopher Walken impression, if anybody's curious. I didn't have one before. That's it. Because, goddamn, was that fun? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Well, we've done it.
We have.
This has been Cape 223. We're done. We did a lot of bitching.
We did.
But it was,
I think, way to come back.
Right? But it was universal. Mm-hmm. More people agree with us than agree with,
I should hope
the
so.
Loud minority who are just like, oh, Chip, it's not my fault they don't get paid. In Europe, blah, 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 blah. I know that stuff that just gets by. Well, listen, again, comparing it to a utopia where you don't live.
Right.
What good does that do? Nothing.
Europe is hardly a
none,
utopia from
none at all. So, well, that's nowhere is again compared to where everybody doing everything makes a fair wage or something. So, and we don't need to do another lap around it. Hey, do you like beer? You should follow Ryan at Honey I Drunk the Beers on Instagram. Maybe also on TikTok by the time this goes out. It probably should.
Yeah, we'll see.
But just
the jury's still out.
It shouldn't be. You're doing reels anyway. It's the same shit. It's all the same shit. Trust me. The same videos go up on Instagram and go up on TikTok for the Cape account. So
it's hard to bring myself to do it.
I know. Just do it. Just do it. It's all the same. Yeah. It's all the same bullshit. It's not. It's probably not going to go anywhere. But if it does, great. Right. We're all just putting stuff out into the void. That's just where we're at. As a society. Yeah. Sorry. It's better than someone bragging about the fact that they don't tip the person who flips the iPad, right?
Just about anything is better
anything
than
you
that.
put out. Yeah, anything you're going to put out there is so much better. But Honey I Drunk the Beers on Instagram, and also Hot Toy Time Machine, which is a, guess what, toy-centric account.
Yes.
Where Ryan Taggart and Jack DeFranco share their toy-oriented adventures and hauls and stuff like that. So if you're into those things, you can follow them. And links in the description down below as well, so you can get right to those accounts. And tag Sonia as well on Twitter. You can follow Ryan. You can follow Christian, the abnormally quiet Christian, on Twitter at ArcadePlayer1 and Arcade Productions on TikTok and on Instagram at Christian Cordes. You can follow me on Twitter and TikTok at Chris Aballo and on Instagram at Chris Sells Out. And of course, follow the show at Cape Pod on all the socials. Again, links are down the bottom. And looking for a voiceover? Book me on Fiverr. Link is also down in the description. Expanding my voiceover business. Going to do some freelancing on Fiverr. And why not? Get in on it now while it's cheap because the price is low now because I'm deciding to build this. So if you want a voiceover for your project, hey, submit a request through Fiverr. Why not? I'm happy to do it. You've listening to my dulcet tones for over an hour now. So if this is the kind of thing you're looking for your project, exactly. Looking for something little late night radio.
Mm-hmm. I got half a job already.
Really? Okay. Well, now we're definitely wrapping up the show and turning off the camera. So that's that. And again, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, following, all that other stuff, sharing, reposting, everything you do. We appreciate the support of the show, and we'll be back next Monday for yet another episode. So until next time, for Ryan and Christian, this is Chris Aballo, and this was yet another experiment.
Tip your service, people.
Yes.